Growing up, I was a Girl Scout, and some of you may know that my mom was our Girl Scout leader. She was also an adult trainer for the council, which meant she got to get to know lots of other trainers and lots of other leaders within the organization. One such connection was to a husband and wife that owned a hot air balloon. And so it was that our family found ourselves going out before dawn, which was not our norm, but going out before dawn on a Saturday morning to the old Air Force Base, where a dozen or so balloons were starting to take flight. And as it happened that morning, the spotters for this couple didn't show up. And so they asked my mom if we'd be interested in stepping in and going on an adventure. They apologized because their insurance only covered them in the balloon. So they couldn't offer us, a chance to go up. But they said, here's the keys to our truck with the trailer. Can you follow us? And so the balloon was up, and it took off across these cotton fields, and we navigated these country roads trying to follow. And I have memories of looking out the windows and pointing and being very excited, and it only went a couple of miles, and it went, as you can probably guess, very slowly, before setting down in the middle of a cotton field. But no plants were harmed, as all of the plants had been tilled under for the season. And so we got out and traipsed across the field and helped them fold up this balloon and roll it up and get it back into their trailer. And then we went home, thankful for an adventure. Now, roughly 30 years later, I was having a rough morning. I was grumpy and irritated in that way that sometimes a well-worn groove can become. And I was driving down to Rohnert Park from Santa Rosa, and in that short couple of miles, I knew all the places where people needed to learn how to drive better. And I just remember kind of being in one of those moods, And then all of a sudden I looked up, and on the horizon, just to the west, I saw 2 hot air balloons. And I thought, balloon down. And it was all I could do to stay on the road and not take the next exit to go see if they needed a hand. That small ascent of my eyes from the road and my grumpiness up to those balloons shifted my morning and my day, but it has shifted my assumptions and my behaviors, because for the next weeks, and now of course that I'm talking about it, I'm going to do it now. For the next weeks, I just scan the sky every morning with hope, hoping to see a balloon. Well, our psalm this morning was created a little before hydrogen tanks or helium tanks. I think the author of our psalm would also like us to chase balloons, because he knew that ascent is important. Looking up in anticipation can lead to an adventure. It can lead towards hope, just like that day on the highway. For the psalmist, the journey begins just inside the gates of Jerusalem, their holy city, and walking up towards the temple. Now, walking anywhere you were to start inside the gates of the Jerusalem then and today, no matter where you started, the journey to the temple always led up the hill. One would ascend to go to the holy place. And that ascent to Jerusalem has many meanings and many layers to it. And religiously speaking, they are all about hope. Hope for a day of liberation, peace. They are aspirational. And Advent, too, this season that we are starting today, is a time of lifting our heads to the heavens and hoping that God will come and do a new thing. God will set the world to rights in a dramatic fashion. These moments of ascent are important. For just like that moment, that morning on the highway, and many before and many since, we can get into routines, and those routines can become grooves. And grooves can frequently feel good to be in, because you have figured out how to get the most of your day, right? You might have a morning routine that gets you out the door with your coffee and the dog's fed or whoever, maybe yourself fed, and you get to wherever you're going on time. That's a good groove. And sometimes these grooves become worn friends, and they are just part of what it is to get up in the morning or to go to bed at night. And sometimes our needs change. And we don't realize that our groove has become a rut. And we spin in that rut, and we can't seem to quite get the day going right. And most of us find ourselves in a rut from time to time. Pretty sure it's not just me. It's pretty normal. And that's why I think we humans like to ascend. We like mountaintop experiences. Because when you climb a mountain, you get above the tree line, you look around, and you have a new perspective on the world around you. To ascend, to get outside or above your rut, blah, blah. You get that bigger perspective of what is happening. And there's this freedom to breaking an old groove, or imagining as you're sitting there to break that old groove when you get down. It feels empowering and full of hope. And then, of course, you have to come on back down and see how it goes. There is a danger if we desire to live life only for those moments up on the ascent, on the mountaintop. Some of us just can't wait. Life isn't worth it until we get there. But if that is the only thing that we're chasing that high, we tend to miss what God is doing right here on the earth in our midst. The balloon chase holds a special place for me in my childhood memories. But the truth is, a lot has happened between the two ascent moments of my life, and all of it, the deep valleys and the high mountaintop experiences, have happened on solid ground. We chase after the bigger view, the bigger perspective. We ascend in the hope of being transformed. And real transformation requires integration. And that tends to be slow going. Religiously speaking, some choose to go from aspirational point to aspirational point. They go from church to church, or even religious experience to religious experience to religious experience, seeking the high of an ascent, seeking after God. And over time, if one does not weave those lessons together of the ascents and allow them to help us get a new groove, then this pattern just continues until it too can become a rut. The purpose in ascending is to help us make meanings of our lives here on the ground. And we are the ones who need to take those steps to integrate these experiences, to live more fully with and full for one another. In our psalm this morning, the ascent is to gain a new perspective, to learn how to live in God's ways. The psalm is quite clear on what it hopes we will learn. It says we will hopefully ascend and learn how to live peacefully and peaceably with our neighbors. For the sake of my relatives and friends, I will say, peace be within you. And for the sake of the house of the Lord our God, I will seek your good. The ascent to God is supposed to lead us to making a better world today for ourselves and for our neighbors. And that journey takes a lot of steps and trials to create new patterns and new grooves. I guess it's a good thing it's a long way to go back down. Plenty of time for figuring out how to integrate that message with our lives. This season of Advent begins today, and it is perhaps an old groove for those who have been in a church that celebrates Advent. And perhaps you don't have a groove yet. Welcome. We're glad you're here. Advent is a season of waiting for God to do a new thing. And in that wait is also a hope that God can do a new thing with us. Also within this season, for those who are willing and able to take a few steps, it is a season that you are already on. You have already caught the balloon, if you will, and now we follow it until the end. And as we are driving towards that or walking towards that ascent, you are invited to take steps of changing what it is you see in you, what it is you see in the world around you, that God is calling you to do a new thing. How do we move towards God over the next 4 weeks in ways that will help us take a step or two outside of that groove, in the hopes that finding a new routine might bring us closer to God? We might be different people on the other side of this journey, and our world might be a better place. You know, the ancient Jews didn't ascend to Jerusalem because they hoped to live in Jerusalem. They go and they come back because they believe that by having gone to the temple, it will make them a different person. So may we also live into that hope, simply by seeking what is good for others and trusting that God will meet us on the ascent and along each and every step of our way. So may it be.